The Final Frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. That's right, here on Saturday, 11 o'clock. Boom, already, before you even got started, a coffee has been fired. Wow. Jeez Louise. Well, let's just get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Star Trek New Worlds, it is a turn-based strategy game that we play online here with you, inspired by the rule set of Federation and Empire, as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. The magic of the map that you will see here shortly is produced by Vassal, and the players and the fun that we have is provided by you. If you're going to be part of our wonderful community, or you would want to, it tickles your fancy, you can be like David down there, David316, and hit the subscribe button and maybe like already double digits of you have on this wonderful live stream today. Thank you so much. And tickle the algorithm in just the right way. You can follow along with the story that we're telling, and that is evolving throughout. If you want to be like the most recent, who is it? It is the Paravian Paragon Coffee Delivery Service. If you want to be like them and fire a photon of coffee goodness our way, then that QR code between me and the chat and or the link, not only in the description, but right down there, you can head over to coffee.com/New Worlds and fire a one-time coffee our way. Or if you want to participate in our Discord channel after this is done, you can jump on the Coffee and Discord tier and join us there if you so wish. All right. What are we talking about today? Well, we are back into Splintered Will after a couple weeks delay. Just shaking off the cobwebs of a powerful New Year's Eve, but back into Splintered Will, and boy, are things getting excited. We can talk about a conflict between the Lyrans and the Tholians involving double-digit ship losses for the for the Lyrans. We can talk about the Tholians being on the move, not only stirring the pot with the Federation and the Klingons, but it would seem both the Hydrans and the Remans. Not to mention that, but the Paravians seem to be on the move. Them and the Gorn tussling, competing. Will there be conflict between them about grabbing territory? We shall see in the turns to come. But before we get into that, let's just say hello to everybody in the chat. I'm looking over here. I see Jim is in the house. Eugene, welcome back, Splintered Will. The Lyran team with the Reman to squeeze. What? Will the Reman team? Boom! Another coffee has been fired. Let me pop out this this chat. It's a little hard to read. All right, let's get back up there. Okay, so Eugene, welcome back. Splintered update. Will the Lyran team and the Reman, with the Reman to squeeze the Tholians? Not sure. Will the Lyrans fight alone? How the Tholians advance further into Romulan territory? all and more today. So true. We're going to find out, basically, the Tholians are the big movers today. They've been involved in almost every aspect of the map. Bill says, Jim and Eugene, how's Trix saw the Lyrans lose a lot of GDP last night? A lot of ship losses. 36 frigates, I think. That's a lot of frigates. Smash like you gets, he says. Julian, welcome, Julian. Splintered Will is everyone versus the Tholians. Well, not exactly. The Tholians are the big baddie in the storyline of Splintered Will. They are the old empire, and we as players are all the fractured components, the splintered portions of the old empire. So we keep bumping up against the Tholians, who are the remnants of the old empire, and the Romulans seem to be the rebellious-natured, pointy-eared folks that have found a way to niche themselves out. But we seem to be bumping into them, and depending on who the player is, they are either wiping them out or helping them out. Depends. We'll see. Let's see here. Seems like the Paravians, everyone versus the Paravians at the moment. No, that's just the wonderful personality of the Paravian player that brings on that kind of attention, I'm sure. You Can't Be Petty says, hello, everybody. Lord Lawless, Chevron oral argument, and now it's +1 streaming day. Woohoo! Harold Hans, welcome. Jim, did you actually whine about everyone against you? I know, isn't it? Isn't it? It's pretty funny. Of course, we got the photon being fired. The most recent coffee here, Paravian Virtue Coffee Delivery, a better grade of flavor. Well, let's take a quick sip of that Paravian grade coffee goodness, and I'll let you know. Wetting the whistle, getting us going, and keeping us stimulated along the way. Sounds like the galaxy needs the Celtorians to show up. Well, if we're going to go down that road, we're going to have to add some ships and counters. But I digress. Before we jump into the happenings of the map, let's go into a little bit of a summary of where we are when it comes to ships and fleets and EP. We'll jump over to that right now. Oh, yeah. Okay, so with some tables here provided by our wonderful GM, Robin. Okay, let's start at the bottom below me here. The Paravians, we are at turn 52. You'll notice as we scroll through, the Carnivons are still at 48. It would seem our Carnivon player is tied up with real life, so we'll see if that gets back on track. But if we reach a certain point here, the Carnivons might have to get subbed out, or we'll see what happens. But the Paravians in turn 52, where are they at? They have an economy of 110.6, almost 111. They've increased their EP by 1, it would seem. They have 128 ships in their fleet, increasing that by 19 over the past couple turns. Total attack factor of 358, defense of 572, increasing that by 53 and 80 respectively. They have 27 YBSs, building 4 more than most recently. 2 YDKs in their contingent, with increasing that number by 1 most recently. The Hydrants used to be the bottom of the barrel, these folks. Now they're back up to 122.8. Oh, yeah. Increasing their income by 9 most recently. They have 82 ships in their fleet, increasing 18 most recently. They have a total attack factor of 179, quite the delta there, if you'll notice, increasing that number by 42. And defense factor of 369, increasing that by 63 most recently. They have a total of 33 YBSs in their contingent, increasing that by 2 most recently, and 11 YDKs, increasing that by 3 over the past couple turns. The Remans, their neighbor to the west, have a total of 127 income, increasing their income by 4. They have 173 total ships. That's, I'm just eyeballing it here. That is the biggest fleet in the game. Holy Dana. 173 ships. That's increasing it by 27 over the past couple turns. Total attack factor of 528, by far the biggest navy in the game. Increasing that number by 94, and 767 defense factors, an increase of 120. They have 17 YBSs, increasing that number by 1, and a total of 5, magic number 5, YDKs, or Y Aerospace Docks, increasing that number by 1. The Klingons are at 125.6. It looks like my Mark 1 Eyeball is telling me that 125.6 is the number one economy in the game, which that's crazy. That means the Hydrons are the second? No, sorry. The Romulans are the number one economy in the game at 127. The Klingons are number 2 at 125.6. And the Hydrons are in the top 3 at 122.8. That is nuts. Wow. Okay, Klingons, 125.6. No increase in their economy over the past couple turns. They have 154 ships in their fleet, increasing that number by 2. They have a total of 355 attack factors and 619 defense, increasing those by 3 and 11, respectively. They have a total of 38, that is huge, YBSs in their infrastructure, increasing that number by 6, and 9 total YDKs, increasing that number by 2. The Kzinti, the faction, one of the two factions that hasn't actually popped onto the map yet. They have a total income of 102.5, increasing that number by 5 most recently. They have 81 total ships in their fleet, with increasing that number by 13. They have 190 total attack factor and 352 defense, increasing that by 34 and 52 respectively. They have 8 YBSs, no change there, and 8 YDKs, increasing that number by 2. The Federation in this game have 110 total EP, increasing that by 3. They have 139 ships in their fleet, bumping that up by 15 over the past couple turns. They have 304 attack factors and 552 defense, increasing it by 47 and 60 respectively. 27 total YBSs make up their contingent, dropping that number by 2 over the past couple turns. And they have 13 YDKs. That's the biggest number in the game, increasing that number by 5. Wow. 5 over the past couple turns. The Lyrans, the Lyrans had a big loss of ships over the past this past turn. So the Lyrans have a total of 135. What am I saying? 135 income. They're the biggest economy in the game. Look at that. 135 economy. So to recap, 135 for the Lyrans, they're number 1. 127 for the Romulans, they're number 2. 125.6 for the Klingons in the top 3. Hydrons are regulated to 4th place. So the Lyrans have 135 income, bumping that up by 9. They have 134 total ships in their fleet, having lost 39 ships in the past couple turns. And that 36 of them was just in this past turn of combat. Understandably, their total attack and defense factors have fallen. They're now 304 and 519, respectively, having dropped by 86 and 161 respectively. Ouch. They have a total of 15 YBSs, increasing that number by 1, and 9 YDKs, having increased that number by 1. The Gorn, just below the Hydrons. The Gorn have a total of 114.8 in their income, having bumped that up by 2. They have 160 ships in their fleet, increasing that number by 37 over the past couple turns. 355 attack, 575 defense, increasing that by almost 100 for the attack factors at 98 and just over 100 at 107 for the defense. They have 25 YBSs, good number, increasing that by 5, and 6 total YDKs. The ISC, the last faction who has not joined the big map, they have a total of 110 income, increasing that number by 2. They have 122 ships in their fleet, having bumped that number up by 16. Total of 364 attack, 595 defense, increasing it by 48 and 71 respectively. No change to their total of 12 YBSs, but increasing by 2 the total number of YDKs to 9. Ooh. So we talked about their income, how many YBSs and all those things they have, but now our GM has given us over there a little breakdown of what ships are making up that fleet. So let's take a look. We can look at the Paravians. They have a total of 60 frigates, so 60 frigates is a pretty good number. 19 light cruisers, 6 DNs. That makes them the biggest number of DNs in the game. And they have 11 tugs. That's pretty good. The Hydrons in this game have 43 frigates. They have 18 command cruisers and 11 tugs. Probably one of the most, one of the smallest fleets in the game. Notice how almost everybody else has a green box indicating they're the best in that category. The Hydrons don't. The Romulans. Okay, the Romulans have a total of 38 frigates, 70 destroyers, and those destroyers, let me tell you folks, great ships. 3-4 like 3 attack, 4 defense ships. They're great, and cheap to repair. They have a total of 17 CAs, 5 CCs, 1 DN, and a total of 12 tugs. They have the most tugs in the game, tied with the Feds. The Kzinti have a total of 47. Oh, sorry. My mistake. I was reading the Klingons. The Romulans, let's go back to that. 38, 70 DDs, 40 CAs, 10 command cruisers, 2 DNs, and 7 tugs. My mistake. The Klingons in this game have 21 frigates, 76 destroyers. Again, great destroyers. 17 CAs, 5 CCs, 1 DN, and 12 tugs. Again, tied for the most amount of tugs in the game. The Kzinti have 47 frigates, 3 light cruisers, 10 heavy cruisers, 6 command cruisers, 3 dreadnoughts, and 5 tugs floating around. The Feds have 73 frigates, 3 destroyers, 24 light cruisers, 10 cruisers, 6 command cruisers, 2 DNs, and 12 tugs. The Lyrans, 67, 16, 17, 21 command cruisers. That's a good number. And 7 tugs. And the Gorn, killing it with 102 frigates, 27 light cruisers, and 8 command cruisers, 3 DNs, and 9 tugs. The ISC rounding out the bottom like the Hydrons, not leading in any particular category. 42 frigates, 25 destroyers, 14 light cruisers, and their light cruisers are good. 26 cruisers, 8 command cruisers, 1 dreadnought, and 6 tugs. So you can tell me in the chat whether you want me reading through all that or whether I can just put these numbers up on the screen and you can go through them at your discretion. But these are the numbers that are currently the state of the game. So based on where we see the economies going, being that the Lyrans are still number 1 by a good margin at 135, the Klingons and the Romulans so tight in that competition. Arguably, the Hydrants are close to. Everyone within about 2 EP of each other in the sense of the Romulans leading that by at the 127 mark, 125 and a half for the Klingons, 122, almost 123 for the Hydrants. They're all pretty close. The question is, who's gonna, and if they're close to each other, who's gonna tussle and have a little friction between them? There's already a couple, and we'll show you that in a moment. All right, let's jump into the. I see lots of chat here. Let me jump back to the chat, and then we'll jump into the big map. All right, let's pop out this chat and see what you have to say, because boy, there was a lot of chitter chatter while I was reading those. By the way, let me know, do you like me reading through those numbers? If you don't, I'll stop doing it and I'll just put it up so you can look at it. But let me know what you think about me reading through it. I know they can get kind of boring, so you let me know. All right, where are we at here? So Julian, sounds like the galaxy needs the Seltorians. We talked about that. Everyone is not against Hydrons. They just want to see them suffer. Well, Lord Lawless, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Bill, I don't know that Robin has done the Seltorian stuff yet. No, they haven't. Julian says, no worries, Bill. The scenario just sounded a bit like the Seltorian story. Oh, well, we have inspiration from all sorts of things across the Starfleet universe. The Seltorians breaking the Tholians' will, or the Tholian will, is the backdrop to our story, but they did not figure into this game, Jim says. Hey, Tony, you were doing okay. Thanks, Bill. YDN number 6 is the evil Emperor Zurg. Zurg. That's not a Toy Story reference, because apparently there's nothing but Toy Story references in the names of all the DNs for the Paravians, so we'll see. Lord Lawless, the economic fleet cap with your commentary is a good overview, but going through all the ships is a bit much. Good on screen. All right. So I'll do the recaps on the economies going forward, but I'll just throw up the ship counts there for next time, and then you can just take a look. I might highlight a couple things like big changes or something like that, but I'll let you guys go through the totals. All right, that sounds good to me. All right, let's get ready to jump into the goodness that is the map. Here we go. All right. So, of course, I'm going to get started off in the domain of green. The methane mayhem that is the Hydran corner of the universe. And You may remember from our previous live streams that there was tension brewing between the Remans and the Hydrants. Specifically, as I zoom in, one more hex. In this area right here, there was a buildup of Reman forces as they were preparing to dive into, or at least it seemed that way, Hydran-controlled space. But what do you see there now? There is quite a large thumb of red. It would seem that the Tholians have seen and heard what was going on and wanted to get involved in some way, shape, or form, and boy, did they ever. It would seem as though the Tholians have, what's the right word, sallied forth and penetrated, violated, absolutely decimated Romulan space and everything that was in there. Let's take a quick look at what you can see. So I've got the layer up here. You can see the Tholian-controlled space, Romulan-controlled space, and then, of course, the Remans and the Hydrans on either side. Let me take away that, and you can kind of get a better sense of what's going on here. Let's take a look at 8th Garrison. They took over this planet here. You can see if we pull up the Tholians, anytime you can find it there, Tony. There we are. Tholians, and we'll pull up their garrison. So, whoa, my God, look at all that craziness. Let's expand that, shall we? And anytime you're ready. There we go. Okay, so if I move I'll put it right above my head there like that. 8th Garrison, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The one right above my head is 8th Garrison. You can see they have a heavy dreadnought. That is a 12 attack, 12 defense ship. They have a total of, they have a CVA with 2 escorts, a DDE, and a war cruiser escort. They have 2 heavy cruisers at 8, 3 war cruisers at 7. There's a war cruiser carrier, which is the one with the 6 fighter factors, and 1 war cruiser escort and a destroyer escort. We have a total of 2 scouts, 1 destroyer escort, and a FCR, which just basically has a bunch of fighters that can be used to supplement fleets of ships that have fighters, so carriers. Wow. Okay, let me just pull this. Actually, I'll just get rid of the ships real quick, and you can see that there's a battalion of ground troops there as well. Curious how they got there, as I don't see a tug or anything. And then let's take away the bases. You can see that is a minor planet that's been devastated. Above here, another minor planet devastated, and a developing planet here that has been devastated. These 3 planets attacked by the Tholians and taken. All right. You can see also, as I'm just going through here with the bases present, battalion of planetary ground bases and a mobile base ready to set up right there, and another one here over on that developing planet. Wow. So I think there was a Reman YBS either in 5215 or 52. Oh, another coffee has been fired. For some reason, I didn't hear that. It is the GRS Rebellion Funds. What is this? The Gorn Relocation Service Rebellion Funds. We'll discuss that in a moment. Cheers, big ears, or scaly ears, I should say, to the Gorn Relocation Service Rebellion Funds. All right, quick sip. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the Tholians have rolled in there. You've got a mobile base and planetary ground bases getting set up. Let's bring back the ships. You've got 8th, 7th, and 1st Garrison in position. We already covered the 8th Garrison. 7th has another sort of, it is a carrier dreadnought with escorts. You have a carrier with escorts, 2 big cruisers, 3 war cruisers, another carrier with escorts, and 2 scouts and escort and a fighter replacement ship. Wow. Okay, so both 8th and 7th are big fleets ready to do damage. And then 1st Garrison here is the very top one. Wow. It has a total of 8 war cruisers, 6 destroyers. Oh my God, 2 fighter replacement ships and 2 scouts. 3 cruisers, a dreadnought carrier with escorts. Holy shiza. That is a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff. Wow. Okay. Well, the Tholians have really rolled in. And as you can see by the control markers indicating the territory they control, they have really taken control. Yeah. And as you can see here, we've got Athena fleet and I think there must have been a fleet down here that got either destroyed or eliminated or pushed out. We've got Columbia fleet up here on a YBS in Romulan control territory. I imagine based on the fleets involved, that won't last long. And then we've got a YBS here. YBS with Solar Fleet. Okay. So just a quick observation. And perhaps a little bit of discussion about what was going on in the background. Prior to this, and you just saw with the coffee donation from the GRS Rebellion funds, there's been a lot of chatter around how the Hydrons, at least this is the banter that happens on our Discord channel, about how the Hydrons are colluding with the Tholians and how bad things are happening there. This, I don't think necessarily helps the defense of that argument, being that it certainly seems that in their time of need, the Tholians just kind of like rolled in. Granted, the Remans were poised, ready to, at least it seemed that way, to roll in on the Hydrons, and there would have been a big battle to fight. Instead, what we saw is the Tholians come racing up into this territory and take this little thumb. The question is, why did they do that, or how could they do that? You'll notice that in the previous live streams, there was this dotted line border around Romulan territory. And in fact, if we scroll down to other parts of Romulan territory, like here, you see there is this, and I'll take away the control zone so you can maybe see it a little bit clearer. There's this yellow dotted line that borders the territory. What that is in game is this energy barrier that the Romulans, basically an in-game technology that the Romulans have developed to protect themselves from being detected by the Tholians. So something happened here so that barrier dropped. What that is, we don't know, but something happened and the barrier dropped, or the location of those Romulan planets was known or detected by the Tholians. This has happened once before with the Lyrans, and I think I know what might have happened. Let me slide back to our chat to discuss. All right. So in the Lyran, and we'll go over to the Lyran pocket there in a second, but when the Lyrans were trying to help the Romulans, they sent their ships across the energy barrier. They went into Romulan territory to bolster up and defend some specific Romulan locations. What the Lyran player didn't realize, and was later explained by the GM, is when they crossed that barrier, the Tholians saw them go through what effectively for them was a solid wall, and realized that, sort of, we'll say, the hologram wasn't real. And then the energy barrier fell, the Tholian ships went through it, and away we go. So I suspect, and I don't know for sure, but I suspect that something happened here as the Remans were moving their ships into Romulan territory. The Tholians were able to detect, because remember, they have lots of bases in this area. So somehow, some way, they were able to detect or see Reman ships going into Romulan territory. If they saw that, then they would have known, or from a role-playing perspective, they would have observed these Reman ships going into Romulan territory, or going through this impermeable barrier, and they would have realized that it's not a barrier, and they can go through it too. And so they did. So they went through, they saw what they saw, and away we go. So the battles happened, my theory, based on the fact that somehow, some way, the influx of Reman ships into Romulan territory cued the Tholians as to what was going on there, and an attack occurred. Now, the irony about that is hilarious to me because, of course, the Hydron player was freaking out because of this big buildup of Reman ships on the border with the Romulans. Again, freaking out. Oh my God, what's going to happen? If, again, my hypothesis, based on what had happened previously in the game, if the Remans going into Romulan territory and building their bases was the precursor or the catalyst for the barrier being dropped and the Tholians knowing that what was there, well, that would be somewhat ironic. The fleet that the Hydrons thought was coming in to destroy them was the very thing that sort of launched the oppressive attack from the Tholians. And at this point, the Hydrons are just sitting back and watching because we're not in that territory and we're not contesting the Romulans. So very, very interesting, I think, how this is evolving. What do you think, and how do you think that's going? I see a whole bunch of chat going on there. Let's see what they say. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's jump in the chat because there is quite a bit here to dive into. All right. What do we got? Let's start off with Bill. Bill says, join our Discord. Some of the discussions go from serious to crazy in about 0.0005 seconds, but good fellowship abounds. Discussion on rules. Another coffee has been fired, ladies and gentlemen. I will take what is this? The Reman Diplomat Corps, looking for peace in all the wrong places. Cheers, big ears. Oh my goodness, my beard is catching all that wonderful, goodness gracious coffee. All right. Woo. Let's see. What do we got here? Fake news, Lord Lawless says. Lyrans did not cross the barrier. We went in it. Also, it was to attack a Tholian base, not help the Romulans. My mistake. Perhaps, nonetheless, crossing that barrier was the catalyst. We shall see. After GM said moving along it would not drop it, but we had different understandings of what a long DMZ meant. Learning point. Be very clear about definitions with your GM. So, you heard it here first from Lord Lawless. It would seem as though transiting through and along that barrier, as in inside it, will cue the Tholians that there's nothing there, and they'll go through it. Here we go. Jim says it is more likely the Hydron ships that came from the south went southwest of the pulsar black hole graphic rather than the Remans, which seriously avoided entering Romulan space for 6 hexes. Oh, I see what he's saying. Okay, so his and I'll go back to the map and I'll point out what he's saying. I believe there is a flaw in that logic, if only because they crossed the Hydron neutral zone to get into Hydron space. They didn't actually go into Romulan controlled territory, so there would have been no violation of that barrier in that example. But good theory. You can't be petty. Hydron Hicks Tholian C? I'm not sure. Hydron Hicks Tholian C. Julian says the Tholians were blasting jump around by House of Pain as they rolled up. Without a doubt. It would have been like Flag of the Valkyries from Apocalypse Now, only with House of Pain playing. Eugene, Lyrans did cross the barrier, perhaps not to defend Romulans, but they were on the hidden side and did a sneak attack on the Tholians. Ooh. Jim says, haha, Julian, you can't be petty. Puppets. I'm assuming he's talking about the Hydrons being puppets. Lord Lawless, Lyran ships never entered the hidden side. We never entered Romulan space until after the DMZ dropped. Check previous maps. Well, so very, very interesting. All right, let's slide back to the map and we'll explore a little bit beyond that particular little pocket. All right, I'm just going to make a slight change. I'm noticing that particular transition is not working just the right way. Yeah, that's right. We'll just change that. Boom. All right, hopefully that'll change it so that next time it'll be clear. Because as you saw, there was a little bit jumpiness there. That didn't work right. All right, let's see here. So we've got the Tholian pocket. Let's roll up into the Romulan area or Romulan space and see what they've got going on. So you can see, and I'll remove the control zone so it's a little bit easier to see. We can see here we've got a Reman base with Pacific and Columbia Fleet and 1st Auxiliary. So what do the Remans, assuming the Remans are going to work on behalf of the Romulans in this context, let's see what the Remans have in this neck of the woods. They've got Columbia. There's Columbia. They've also got Pacifica. So we'll put that over here. I'll put that in the top corner just so it's easier to see. Reman. I love it when I can't find it, even though I just clicked it. There we are. Reman. So Columbia, Pacifica. There we go. Pacifica Fleet. We'll put that right there. And they've got 1st Auxiliary. Is that correct? 1st Auxiliary. Yeah. Reman, 1st Auxiliary. Auxiliary fleets. I'll put that right there. So you can see the 1st Auxiliary is just a tug with an E2 escorting. You've got a command cruiser, 4 cruisers, 8 destroyers, and a frigate, as well as a dreadnought, a command cruiser, another 3 cruisers, 4 destroyers, and a frigate. So that's what's sitting on top of this YBS with that massive fleet next to it. Goodness gracious. There's also Athena fleet very close by. Let's take a look at Athena. Athena. Interesting. So Athena fleet looks like it came potentially out of that whole encounter unscathed. And there's 9th Auxiliary as well. So we know the auxiliary fleet right here. 9th Auxiliary is, at the bottom here, a tug and a frigate escort. So we know that that's there. So the Athena fleet is a command cruiser, total of 4 cruisers, commando destroyer, 5 destroyers, and 3 frigates. Okay, so looking at what's here, again, we have Y-era ships versus GW ships, which is what the Tholians are. So for all intents and purposes, Tier 2 level ships versus Tier 4 level ships, higher the number being the more advanced that it is. And you've got a YBS here that is sort of defending when it comes to where Columbia Fleet is. That's quite a bit. In addition, though, they also have Solar Fleet up here and 10th Auxiliary. 10th Auxiliary, let's see here. 10th Auxiliary, you can see, is a tug, a frigate, and looks like a troop pod, possibly, most likely, for that tug. Okay, so Solar Fleet. Let's pull up what Solar Fleet is. And I guess it's Solaria Fleet. And here we are. So Solaria Fleet is a command cruiser. It looks like 3 cruisers and 5 destroyers, along with a prime team. So these fleets are in position, ready to perhaps just defend their locations, but also they are, I think it would be fair to say they are dramatically outclassed when it comes to the Tholian ships. The question is, will the Tholians attack them, or will they bypass their location to be able to attack the Romulans? Knowing or thinking that perhaps the Tholians don't have full visibility into all of Romulan space, although based on their current progression, I would say they probably do. The fact that the Remans are on top of, and I'll remove the bases and the ships here, they're on top of a Romulan resource, which I'm sure the Tholians will want to take. They may find themselves on the receiving end of an attack, at least on this particular location. This isn't really in the way of anything as long as they don't pick a fight, so maybe they won't get involved with the Tholians here. But I'm imagining the Tholians are going to move forward and take a whole bunch of business from the potential Romulans here shortly. It'll be very interesting to see how this progresses. Yeah. Very interesting. And as you can see, the Romulans have stacked their homeworld. I can't, because it's not sort of organized. I've got 1 destroyer, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 destroyers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6, maybe 7 frigates. I might be miscounting here. You've got 1, 2. It's hard to organize, or hard to count when they're not organized. 3, 4, 5 cruisers, a Falcon, which is a mauler, And there's got to be a kingbird in there somewhere. I can't see a kingbird, but I feel like there's got to be one in there somewhere. And there's also a converted KD4, which is a cruiser from the Romulans. So there is definitely a lot of ships based on the homeworld for the Romulans. You've got what looks like to be a whole bunch of ships moving into position to be able to protect the homeworld from Tholian attack. Yeah, this looks like it's a full-on invasion from the Tholians. The question is, what are the Romulans and the Hydrans going to do about it? Are they, A, going to help the Romulans and fight the Tholians? B, fight each other in the sense of perhaps they won't work together, but they'll work sort of all for their own self-interest, meaning the Hydrans will attack the Tholians and the Romulans will attack the Tholians and the Romulans will attack the Tholians, but then potentially attack each other. I don't know. They're not allied, but it'll be interesting to see. Or will one or all of the factions involved sort of take advantage of the situation? Meaning as the Tholians sort of advance into Romulan space and decimate Romulan territory, the Hydrans and Romulans may gobble up Romulan territory as best they can as they're doing it. Who knows? We'll have to see how that goes, but it's a very interesting dynamic that's going on here. And as I said, ironic if the Romulans crossing the border dropped that barrier and created the ability for the Tholians to roll in. And ironically, if the Romulans were actually intending, and I believe that they were, intending to attack the Hydrans, now there is a barrier, a Tholian barrier in between them, which is going to be just harder to break, but it's like a buffer zone. So it's just interesting and ironic, like you're moving ships to be able to attack, for example, in this case, if the Romulans were moving to attack the Hydrans, now because of their actions, based on my hypothesis, the Tholians are creating like a buffer zone or a neutral zone or a peacekeeping zone between them. And based on how big and tough they are, I don't think that that's going to change anything anytime soon. So very, very interesting to see how that's sort of all rolling in. Okay, let's do a quick, we'll do scanning down the right side of the map. And just as a reminder, I'm going to zoom out here so you can see, and I'll move my head to the other side of the map so it's a little bit easier. So this is the big picture map. You can see the Hydrans in the top right corner, the Lyrans in the top left corner, the Romulans. Their maple leaf is changing shape a little bit here. It is a little different. They're in the top middle. You can see the Gorn right above this big block of blue right here. The Gorn are right there. Below them are the Paravians. There's a big pocket of black down here where there might be two other factions that haven't been seen yet. We've got the Klingons over in the bottom left. We've got another pocket of Romulans. The Federation right here in orange. And then as we roll up again, we've got the Lyrans up top here. So we think, based on sort of our greatest information, that the Carnarvon are probably in this pocket right here. And the Kzinti and the IC are somewhere down here. Maybe Kzinti here, IC here, who knows? We'll see. But that's sort of how this is evolving as the game moves forward. So let's roll into the Gorn and see what's going on with... we'll touch on the Hydrans and then move to the Gorn because, after all, we have to discuss the GRS, the Gorn Relocation Service. Okay, so when they're talking about that, what are they talking about? They're talking about this little planet right here, the GRS. Now, the GRS is being claimed by the Gorn Empire as being where we are capturing and relocating prisoners of war that the Tholians captured in their most recent conflict with the Gorn. They had a big tussle, blew up a bunch of Gorn ships, and so they believe, they're propagating that information that the Tholians are placing their prisoners of war here, and that's fine. So as a result, and you can check in the comments for the YouTube channel, we published a PDF of a press release of what was going on. Long story short, yes, there are Gorn there, and they've been relocated to a safe planet in the back end of the Hydran space. They have been given opportunities to be educated, trained, business opportunities to grow their community, prosperity of business. They've been given all these resources to thrive. But why would they care about that? Why would they choose to do that? Well, read the article and you'll see. Long story short, the Gorn have some sneaky things that they do. They have some sneaky things that they do and how they were fighting their war that led to this outcome from a role-playing perspective in the game. So check that out and you will see. Okay, let's scroll down. I'll zoom out just one hex so you can see what's going on here. So on the border of the southern border of Hydron space, you've got this big thicket of Tholian concentration, obviously like another barrier or border between the Gorn and the Hydrons. But as we scroll down, you can see that the Gorn, they've had a couple of tussles with the Tholians, most recently sort of up here in this top left corner. The Gorn were very effective at using the pinning technique in the rules of Federation Empire to be able to sort of tie down and prevent the Tholians from actually doing any significant damage. That being said, there were some significant costs with regards to ships and so on, but they used a boatload of frigates, which for the Gorn are really terrible ships. In fact, let me just see if I can pull up an example of a Gorn frigate here for you. I'm just going to, let's see, Gorn's Y-era frigate. Well, actually, their frigates are 2-3s. So you can see here that their frigates are 2 attack, 3 defense. So they're not the worst in the world, but they are not great ships overall. 2-3 ships are not the ships that are going to make necessarily make or break your battles. But in this case, they did, because they had so many of them. They threw them into a battle and used them to pin Tholian ships and prevent them from attacking. If you want, I can make a tutorial on pinning. We'll call it Making Pinning Great Again. And we'll talk about how pinning works, how you can use it, when it can be used, and perhaps examples about how it has best been used in the past. If that's something you want to see, then please put your notes in the comments, and we'll see how we can do. I notice we're at double digits with over 21 of you joined us live here right now. Please feel free to hit that thumbs up button and tickle the YouTube algorithm just the right way. All right, so we've got the Gorn, and they've sort of got this almost chevron / heart shape here to their territory. You can see it right here. On the far eastern side, you can see that the Hydrons are moving their way down and the Gorn are moving their way sort of up. And so at some point soon, I'm sure the Hydrons and the Gorn are going to encounter each other, assuming there's no Tholian on the far right. So they'll encounter each other in one way or another, and we'll see how that evolves as they go forward. So we'll see how that goes. As we roll down, though, you can see that the Gorn are, and I'll take away the control zone here in a second, the Gorn are preparing for and are encountering some tensions with their KFC neighbors to the south, the Paravians. We make the joke about KFC because the Paravians are essentially feathered Gorn, so they're like birds. And so, they're encountering, shall we say, a difference of opinion. You've got the Romulan player down here below, and as we talked about before, some factions are choosing to engage or fight the Romulans. That's what's going on down here, or at least the preparations for it. We take away the control zone, and you can see the ships a little bit better. You can see that the Gorn are moving, they have a bunch of ships that they're moving down here. So you can see there's a couple tugs and frigates as escorts, and they're building bases to be able to move down to, if I take away the ships and the bases real quick, you will see that there is a capital on the far right side above my head there. That is the capital for the Romulan Empire. There is a major planet on the far left, another key strategically valuable point over here. And shall we say in discussions between these two factions, there had been a difference of opinion about if they were going to attack the Romulans, how they might divide the spoils of that conflict. And as I bring back the bases and the ships, you will see there is a collection of Gorn and a Paravian ship on this Romulan-owned planet with, shall we say, some potential struggles about to come out. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, coffee has been fired from the Albatross Coffee is Supreme, the master blend of Greater Paravian. Wow, those Paravians are really firing a lot of coffee today. Cheers to our Paravian neighbors to the south. Motivated, stimulated, and ready to go. So here's the thing about this situation. I'm curious to see if one of these factions, i.e. the Gorn or the Paravians, are going to try and get the Romulans on their side and attack the other. So are the Paravians going to convince the Romulans that it's time for you to join up with me and attack the Gorn, or vice versa? Gorn working with the Romulans to attack the Paravians. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Or are they both just going to go balls deep on attacking the Romulans at their discretion? That would be an interesting play as well. We'll have to see how this evolves going forward, but that's something that's being discussed. So let's see. We've got, as far as fleets in the area, you've got 10th Fleet, and we'll show 10th Fleet here in a second. With this YBS, getting to this Romulan planet to be able to, shall we say, have some negotiations. The Paravians are also building up in this direction. I'll take away the ships real quick. You can see they're building a base here, and they've got first rock here with another tug and another tug here. I'm going to assume they are building bases at 2 hex intervals, working their way up towards Gorn space or into Romulan territory. On the right side, right about where my head is, and I'll switch myself over here so I'm out of the way, you can see when I take away the ships, a similar construction pattern happening. 3 hex interval, but nonetheless still working in this direction. You've got another tug here. That's quite a distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a little outside their supply range, unless somehow the Romulans are providing them supply. That's an option, potentially. Maybe they're going to build a base here. I'm not sure. First Expeditionary Fleet. Let's take a look at Paravian First Expeditionary or Exploration Fleet. First Exploration Fleet, you can see here, if I slide it over, is 1, 2, 3 YSRs, 3 Raptor teams, and 3 frigates. So they've consolidated a bunch of survey ships into this fleet, and that's sitting right there. Interesting. They have Second Rock Fleet. Interesting. Paravian Second Rock. Flock. Obviously, my eyesight's failing. Second Flock Fleet, so that's cruiser, light cruiser, and 4 frigates. So Second Flock. Yeah, I definitely need better glasses. Second Flock Fleet with a tug there, so they're going to probably be building a base there, so that'll be the 2 hex spacing we talked about before. But there is a planet there, so I'm curious if the Romulans would let them do that. There's a colony there. It'd be interesting to see how that works out. So building up this way. So it would seem based on this, the Paravians are pre-positioning bases and logistical supply to be able to go into these areas of space. But the Gorn haven't done it on 2 fronts, just on 1 front here. First Rock, we just showed First Flock. We saw the Flock fleets. They're basically cruisers and, here we go. They're cruisers, light cruiser, and frigates. That's Second Rock Fleet. So not significantly large as a fleet goes. Let's check out the Gorn on 10th Fleet. And I have a feeling, maybe hooked on a feeling, that there's a little something extra in this fleet. Okay, so we can see we've got a command cruiser, 2 command cruisers sitting on this YDK, and boom! A total of 10 frigates. That coffee fired by the Romulan Relief Fund. I wonder who's funding the Romulans these days. Nothing but goodness coffee. Thank you so much. All right, so we've got the Romulan Relief Fund supporting our analysis of the Gorn command cruisers and YFFs. So you can see here they've got 10 YFFs and 2 command cruisers in the back, 3 frigates and 2 tugs building bases here. I'll be curious to see what degree or what size fleets the Gorn bring to bear, because while it's not going to happen next turn, it certainly appears as though there are some big shifts about to happen on this border. Based on what I've described to you, what do you think? Do you think the Gorn and the Paravians are going to work together to take out the Romulans? Do you think the Romulans are going to ally with one side or another and work with them to expel the other? Or do you think the Gorn and the Paravians are just going to go ham on all Romulans and compete with each other on what they can or can't take? It's interesting because, as I understand it, a lot of the friction has been around the capability of one faction or another being able to do what they think they can do, take a certain amount of territory and so on. We'll see how that pans out, but it'll be very interesting to see how and in what way the Romulans, the Gorn or the Paravians can prosecute a war into this space, because do they have the ships to do it? The Paravians certainly do, but do they have them in that area? They haven't shown that yet. There's a lot that could happen here. And of course, the Romulans aren't going to just sit there and take it without fighting back. So if you've got three factions all fighting a three-way war, a free-for-all, then it'll be very interesting to see how that evolves going forward, and whether one faction plays sort of the Romulans off the other to be able to make that more advantageous on their end. Very interesting to see how this dynamic is going to evolve and what's going to happen here. I think, my 2 cents, whoever comes out on top is going to be a huge economic player in the game. We've already talked about the Lyrans. We'll get to them in a bit. And their 36 ship loss battle. But there is a lot of resources to be had here in this area. Just take away the bases and the ships for a second. Lots of resources, but look at all these planets. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I mean, we've got over 35 different planets and colonies, plus all the resources in there, and the capital. There's so much to be had here. The question is, who's going to take it and how are they going to do that? It'll be very interesting to see who comes out on top in this struggle. All right, let's scroll down here. Let's take a look at the Paravians had previously had a little tussle with the Tholians. You can see this little pocket right here. Let me zoom in one more. So over here, you saw the Paravians had a tussle with the Tholians. They've since gone to peace with them, or chilled out, shall we say. Less of a conflict, more of a getting along with each other. Kumbaya with the Tholians. Interesting that they, of all players, are getting along with the Tholians. I'd be curious as to the motivations as to why. I suppose you pick your battles. Who can you fight and who can you win against? Very obviously, that was a very costly battle or costly conflict with the Tholians one way or another, but we'll see how that goes. You can see here in the bottom right corner, there is a little bit of Romulan discovery as well. We've got, I'll just take away the ships real quick. You've got a couple bases on the border, and if I take away the bases, you can see colonies and a minor planet. So there's the beginnings of something down in this corner with the Paravians doing their thing here. Now, as we move forward, I want you to remember this little corner. So, that's all that's going on. And if you're wondering what this is, I don't know. It's like a wind cluster. A bunch of wormholes pop out here, and bad things happen whenever you send ships through wormholes to this location. So I can't tell you what's going on. That's very much a game master behind the curtain kind of thing that's going on, and we'll figure that out as we go. All right, let's zoom out, and I will slide over to the Klingon area, and I'll slide my head over so it's a little bit easier to see. The Klingon and the Federation and their conflict with the Tholians. Let's zoom in here real quick. All right, so long story short, we've got a bunch of activity at the end along this border and in this area between the Tholians and the Federations, the Klingons, and the Romulans. If I take away the control zone, you can see there's lots of Klingon ships and bases in this area here providing support and building out infrastructure in Romulan territory. Federation is doing the exact same thing. They've built out a base network deep into Romulan territory, and it's harder to see, but if you can, there are these green hexes that show trade routes between Federation and Klingon locations and specific Romulan and Federation and Klingon trade routes that are going back and forth. So there's a lot of collaboration, coordination between all three factions here. However, they are still facing big fights between the Tholians. You can see here there's a small stack of ships here, a couple destroyers with a war cruiser on a bats. You've got a planet here with a sector base. Whew, look at that. You've got some Tholian ships stacked up here. We had 4th Garrison, and we'll show you 4th Garrison in a second. There is quite a collection of ships, Tholian ships, in pre-positioned locations to be able to continue attacking Romulan locations. This particular stack here, which is interesting, as I slide this over, of course my head's probably in the way. This particular stack here, you can see here with war cruisers, heavy war cruiser, monitor, and what looks like the beginnings of being able to improve this bats into something else. There is the potential that these guys could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, not quite reach there, but these guys can certainly reach there. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, they can't quite reach either. So there's some threatening but not existential threat on the Romulan capital in this area, which you can see here has a Falcon, a bunch of frigates and destroyers, and a dreadnought, a YVUL, Vulture. That's a dreadnought. That's a great ship. Looks like they are working hard to defend this territory. Let's take a look at 4th Garrison here real quick, and we can see, again, Tholians, here we are. Garrison. So on the garrison note, 4th Garrison, 1, 2, 3, 4, boop. You can see here they've got a command cruiser, heavy cruiser, total of 4 war cruisers, 2 destroyers, 2 Black Widows, and a scout. So not the craziest fleets ever, but more than enough to be able to cause problems for the Federation and the Klingons. It would seem that the Federation has built up, if I take away the ships real quick so you can see, they're building up quite a collection of YDKs in this corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they're all basically in between the Federation capital and the, shall we say, Tholian incursion. So there's quite a collection here of defenses that are being built up. Bring back the ships, and you've got 2nd Fleet and 5th Fleet. Let's take a quick look at Fed 2, 2nd and 5th. Oh, okay. Numbered fleets. There we go. So you can see this here. 2nd Fleet is a command cruiser, 2 heavy cruisers, a boat ton, 8 of them, of light cruisers, a wire destroyer, 19 frigates. Woo! And a commando cruiser here. Very, very interesting. And then, of course, what was it? There was up here, there's 7th. Those are auxiliaries. And there is 3rd Fleet. 3rd Fleet, 2 command cruisers, 3 heavy cruisers, 4 light cruisers, 2 hospital ships, 2 prime teams, and 2 commando cruisers as well. Interesting. And then, of course, 5th Fleet, which is in the back, command cruiser, 4 frigates, a Vulcan cruiser, which has got scout functions, and a light cruiser here. So it looks like the majority of Federation forces are positioned here as a barrier between the Tholians and moving their way closer to the Federation homeworld. Interesting also to note here, just because of the command ship being used, is 1st Fleet and how they're located so close to this stack of ships. Perhaps there's a little coordination going on here. 1st Fleet has a W2 W-era dreadnoughts commanding this fleet. W-era ships can only move 3 hexes, so it's quite a constraint. But they are 10 command points. They only have 4 attack, but 7 defense, so a little bit better than the command cruiser. Certainly, they can command more ships. They've got 2 command cruisers, a total of 5 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and that can't be right. That can't be right. Holy Dinah. 28 frigates. 28 frigates. Holy crap. Wow. Okay, 28 frigates. First Fleet is on the warpath. 28 frigates, and those ships, if I'm looking at the writing on the wall, they are looking to attack this stack right here. Wow. Okay, so this has 6 planetary ground bases with 12 fighter factors, a BATS with 6 fighter factors, a cruiser, 2 cruisers, a command cruiser, 3 war cruisers, which can pinwheel, and 3 destroyers, which can pinwheel. There is no doubt in my mind that that First Fleet is specifically designed to be able to attack and take this specific location. If I take away the ships and the bases, that is a minor planet, and it's within spitting distance of the Romulan capital in this area. So I think, based on what I'm seeing, very clearly, the Feds and potentially the Klingons are working to take back territory that the Tholians are taking from the Romulans and arguably from the Klingons and the Federation themselves. Very interesting to see how this battle will unfold in the coming turns. Very, very interesting. GM, keep us updated on what's going on in that particular battle. All right, let's zoom out. Beyond that, I'm not aware, and I can't really necessarily see anything that's going on the Klingons with the Tholians. But as we can see here, just at the 10,000 foot view, you can see here there's collection and a starbase. There are pillars of strength, as I call them, in different areas of the territory. So you've got, for example, down south, you've got a couple star bases. Over on the far left, somewhere here, there's a starbase. There's a starbase there. So you've got these pillars of strength that are irritants or issues for potentially some players. What I note here, the Klingons are very clearly contained and are not going to be able to, and are not looking like they are actively trying to start anything with the Tholians in this area. You can see, for example, here, they've got a Tholian border squadron. Let's take a look. Klingon Tholian border squadron. Where are you? There it is. Tholian border squadron. So by example, and this is just a sample, you've got a command cruiser, 2 destroyers, and a frigate, all Y-era ships. That's not going to do anything to a stack of ships on a starbase, a GW-era starbase, that itself has 36 attack, 12 defense, and 12 fighter factors to go, not to mention the ships escorting it. A dreadnought carrier, escorts, command cruisers. There's all sorts of stuff here. So it doesn't seem as though the Klingons are picking a fight with the Tholians. Rather, they're fighting a war to support the Romulans, but they're not actually tussling too much with the Tholians. However, if I'm wrong, please jump in the chat and let me know that I am out to lunch. Whereas very definitely the Feds are actively engaging the Tholians on multiple fronts, and you can see their footprint is probably a good representation of the cost of doing that. They've taken some territory up north from the Tholians. You can see there's some Tholian concentrations on bats in the background. And like I said, they've got some pillars of strength, the Tholians that is, on the border area with the Feds. So very interesting to see how that's going to evolve as we go forward. Now, let's roll into the last faction on the big map. That is the Lyrans in the top left. And let's talk about what is going on with them and why it's important. All right, let's slide in here and scroll up. Okay, so this little neck of the woods is where a huge battle took place that cost the Lyrans a very large number of ships. Okay, you can see here right now we've got the this particular hex, and I will take away the control zone so it's a little bit easier to see. If we take away the ships, you will see that there is a BATS here, and that right here there is a battalion of forces. We take away those bases, and you can see that this medium planet has been devastated. On this planet, there was a massive fleet war. Boom! Lord Lawless firing a coffee our way. Cheers to Lord Lawless. Big sip. Here we go. So on this planet, there was a massive battle. I don't have the screen capture to be able to show you, although I know a screen capture was taken of the battle. But 30 on the average, 36 ships were lost in this particular fleet exchange. Boatload of frigates for sure for the Lyrans, but a large number of ships certainly lost for the Lyrans. The Tholians lost a battle station, a bunch of fighters, some cruisers and escorts, and a couple carriers. I think there was some Black Widows there, but nonetheless, less than 10 ships from the Tholian side, over 35 on the Lyran side, just for context. Big things that happened in this battle. EW was a big component, and fighter factors made a huge difference in the overall battle. So that's pretty significant. If we bring back the bases, it would seem that the Tholians have taken back this planet and deposited some planetary ground base assets to be able to support it. And you can see here that on the base station that's adjacent to or right beside the planet, you've still got not insignificant fleet. And this is very representative of what was defending the other base. You can see here you've got a battalion of ground units, bats, patrol craft escort, a carrier, which is the CMV, excuse me, a command cruiser, 3 patrol craft, a dreadnought, some CVAs, which are carriers, and they have a combined total of 12 fighter factors, 12 attack, 16 defense, a scout, some Black Widows, which are sort of like light carriers, a heavy dreadnought, a heavy cruiser, and a ship that has the FCR, which has a bunch of fighter factors that can supplement or resupply ships in battle. So you've got a whole bunch of stuff here that was basically defending a similar unit, bats and planetary ground base, from the Lyran attack, and the Lyrans took 36 casualties trying to take that planet. One of the key victories they have, though, or they had in taking that base or taking that planet, was the destruction of an FRD, or fleet repair dock, in the area, which was critical for the Tholians to be able to quickly repair and get their ships back into action. So big strategic win as far as the Lyrans go, but very high cost without too much territorial gain. So they took that planet. Obviously, they lost it in return. And you can see here that there was a YDK that was in the midst of being built right here in 2407, but Tholian forces came in and blew that up as they were going back. You can see here there's a bunch of crippled ships. Those are some of the ships that are sort of recovering from the big battle. And Predator fleet, if we pull up Predator, oh my goodness, look at all this. There it is, Predator fleet. So you can see Predator fleet was huge, and now it's 2 command cruisers and 2 stalker teams, or 2 prime teams. That's crazy. We have Night Roar. Look at that. There's still 3 command cruisers and a light cruiser being repaired there. I bet you there's something up here. Frigate being repaired there as well. There's a lot of crippled ships that were damaged in this area that are being repaired at this point, but so many ships lost as well in the fight. So a lot of big stuff, and really what this does is this speaks to the effectiveness of Y ships versus GW. So let's before I slide back into the chat and cover the last 2 factions, let's do a quick around the clock here for the Lyrans. You can see here they've still got their expeditionary fleet on their wormhole. No big, it looks like, or seems like, no big encounters or battles with the Tholians on this part of their border. But as we scroll down here, this is that territory we were talking about before, where the Lyrans crossed a barrier, and then the Tholians started moving in. You can see the Romulan-controlled territory for the control nodes, but then if I pull that back, you can see how much the Tholians have moved into Romulan space and how they are pushing hard to be able to take Romulan territory. If I take away the bases and ships, this is their planet that they're trying to defend, but you can see it's going to be a bit of a challenging defense based on everything that's happening here. You have a number of Lyran ships in there trying to help defend, but it is, as was indicated by that big battle, up north, it is a bit of a losing prospect for the Lyrans, but certainly one that they have to keep fighting. Otherwise, the Tholians will just keep pushing into Lyran territory. But don't cry for the Lyrans. They're still a big economic force, the biggest in the game. Yeah, look at this. They've got 2 bases co-located in one location over this base, trying to help defend it against 5th and 6th garrisons. Let's pull up 5th and 6th garrisons just for comparison here. And you can see here that 5th and 6th are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6th garrison. Dreadnought, command cruiser, 3 heavy cruisers, 2 carriers with escorts, and 2 scouts, an escort, and a fleet and a fighter support ship. So you've got that's 6th garrison, and then 5th is a heavy dreadnought, so 12 attack and defense versus 10. Another carrier, 2 cruisers, 3 war cruisers, 6 Black Widows, and a scout with CPCs. So these are big fleets, and these are fleets that are going to do potentially a lot of damage when they roll in. How will the Romulans and the Lyrans defend against this massive fleet of ships? Only time will tell. All right. And then, of course, as we just kind of do a quick survey here as we take away the ships, you can see, and it's hard to see with all the yellow, I know, but you've got a lot of these YDKs being established in close proximity to the capital and in sort of branches towards where the big conflicts are. You can see a bunch of YDKs up into this area here. As you look down south, you can see a YDK arm, shall we say, being built, or limb being built down this way. You've got a YDK down here, YDK up here. And of course, right now it looks like there is a mass effort to be able to build robust defenses in this area to push back the Tholians as they're pushing in. I know. There is a lot for sure. Let's slide back to the chat and see what you have to say. Yeah, there's a lot there, without a doubt. And we still got the Khazinti and the ISC to talk about real quick. Now, let's just jump into the chat real quick and see what you have to say about all of that. Let's see here as I open this up. Okay, so after the last coffee firing, Robin says, Rock Fleet. Is that the foreshadowing that the Paravians are working with the Tholians? Oh, I like the way you think, Robin. Perhaps that is why the Paravians are so focused on eliminating the Romulans. They don't want to work with them. They want to take them out because they are puppets of the Tholians. Ooh, I like the way you think, Robin. Interesting. Harold says, have not the Paravians stated they will destroy the Tholians? Well, maybe that was all for show, because as we've seen, the Tholians and the Paravians had a bit of a tussle. No real substantive change on their border, but nonetheless, they're at peace right now. So maybe a little bit of a dance for everyone else's benefit. We'll see. Bill says, again, please smash the like button. Of course, don't be shy. Hit that like button. Only 13 likes right now. Let's get that up to 2.0 since there's a lot of viewers here today. Julian says, are the Romulans passive? Do they attack the Tholians or just try to defend? Well, to be fair, generally speaking, it looks like on the whole, they're kind of passive because they have Y-era ships, Y being the Tier 2 tech, versus the Tholians, which have GW, which is Tier 4 tech. So it's kind of an unfair fight. So what do you do? What do you do in that situation? How do you defend? How do you attack? How do you progress against the Tholians? At this point, the Romulans and the Tholians both being NPCs, they're really just there for the entertainment value, shall we say, of us, the players. So how do we interact with them? How do they add to the flavor of what we're doing? Eventually, I imagine, although not for certain, but I imagine most of the Romulan enclaves will be eliminated or absorbed in one form or another, and it'll be players versus the Tholians or each other vying for control of different territories. So we'll have to see how that kind of evolves over time. But certainly at this stage of the game, with all the players at similar tech level, but noticeably below where the Tholians are. Fighting the Tholians is a very difficult endeavor. However, once we get into late M and early GW for all the player factions, I imagine that's going to change substantially, and the players will get much more combative with the Tholians. Perhaps. We'll see. Again, stay tuned. We'll figure that out. What do we got? Judging by recent events, lots of ships. What's this? Lord Lawless, regarding Paravians and Gorn, destroy the Tholians. Talk is cheap, action costs ships, Lord Lawless says. Yes, judging by the recent events, lots of ships, Jim said. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. 12 YDK equals or additional 12 FFs per turn. Woo. Bill says, Second Fleet looks larger. I'm assuming that's with regards to Second Fleet being Second Fleet for the Feds. Julian says, are the Romulans passive? The Tholian Lyran flight last night, fur and rocks were a-flying. They were. It was quite a robust battle, and we did it real time. So it was very interesting to see and see how that unfolded. Lord Lawless, Lyrans lost 50 ship equivalents. Tholians lost 15 ship equivalents, FNFRD, and bases. So Lord Lawless being the Lyran player, wow, 50 ship equivalents. I thought it was only 36, but 50, 5-0. That's crazy. You Can't Be Petty says, Tony, you didn't show the Gorn 3rd and 4th anti-hydrant fleets. Sure, we'll go back and look at those. Anti-hydrant, yes. Sooner than late M era, Tony. Mid-M era will be the doom of the Tholians. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the insight, Tony, Julian says. Okay, so let's, before I go any further, let's give the Kzinti and the ISC their due. Let's roll into to the Kzinti player first, and then we'll talk about the ISC. Here we go. All right. Okay, so here is the Kzinti player. Now, we talked about how the Kzinti player, like some of the other factions before him on the mini-map, slightly smaller. You can see down south they've encountered a little bit of Tholian action. We've got a battle station, patrol craft, and destroyer, and let's take away the bases and see what's underneath that. Oh, looks like a minor planet there, so that's very good. So we've encountered some Tholians. Now, a geographic thing to note, look at these two pulsars that are here. Two pulsars, and some Romulan territory linking between them. You see that dotted line, that yellow dotted line is that energy barrier we were talking about. And of course, the Kzinti are moving ships into and trying to encounter and build up relations with the Romulans. You can see a couple of Romulan planets established, and you can see an R&D team landed on the quote-unquote capital of this section to be able to conduct a little R&D research. So interesting to note sort of the layout of where everything is. If we take away the ships real quick, you can see the proliferation of YDKs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that was it. So they're building 6, quite a few YDKs, considering the size and the footprint of their empire. Because again, the Kzinti, relatively speaking, are small. One of the benefits that we've talked about when you go to the big map is that in the early era or the early part of the game, when you're on your own little maplet, in this particular campaign, you use survey ships to be able to explore and expand your borders. One of the things we've observed that once you get to the big map, anything that is within your fixed supply range becomes visible. So effectively, you don't explore with supply or with survey ships anymore. You explore and expand your borders with supply, meaning base building. The more tugs you have, the more you can build out those bases, the faster your borders can expand. Of course, you've got things like the Tholians that are in the way, but nonetheless, it becomes a supply game rather than a survey game. So interesting difference there. The Kzinti, I imagine, will join the map shortly, and I believe that their intelligence level, if I look back at my map real quick, the intelligence level for the Kzinti was... it's not labeled here. Interesting. So we don't see their intelligence level. We can assume it's not 5. But we can see that, for example, their economy at 102, they have a lot of potential room to expand once they join the big map. Interesting to see. All right, let's pull back the Kzinti. And we can see here. So not much to explore here. Again, we know their ship counts. We know how big they are, but we don't know how they're going to play with the rest of the map once they get in there. Let's talk about the ISC. They are up next. Oh, of course. Let's slide back over there. What do we got for chat here? Kzinti cats, but the wrong kind. Yes, well, Lord Lawless is the space lions of the game, the Lyrans, so I can totally understand why that would be the case. All right, here we go. Back to the ISC. Now, if you will remember, I said pay attention to that little Romulan enclave that I was talking about before, and this is why. If we look at the ISC, first of all, this big red line on the bottom indicates that they are at the bottom of the map. And we've got a fairly interesting... I think at one point we said it was like a person riding a unicorn or something like that, but now it's an amoeba of various shapes and forms moving out. Here we go. And so we've got some initial Tholian contact on the far west, but a lot of robust Romulan contact going on here. We can see that the... Oh, wow. Very interesting. Okay, so we've got R&D teams on the Romulan capital. We've got 4th, 2nd, 5th. Okay, hold on. I'm getting a little overwhelmed. Let's take away the ships real quick. These are the resources. Let's bring in the bases. Look at the base. Interesting. Look at the base building. 1, 2, 3 YDKs and another YBS being built up here. I think I know how this is going to go. So a little Romulan enclave here, right? If we take away ships and bases again, take away ships, we can see they have major planet, a couple minor planets and colonies and resources. So, a good little pocket of resources to grab. Bring back ships and bases. They are building a base structure into Romulan space. They're obviously at a diplomatic level or research level with them where they can do that, or intelligence level, excuse me. And I expect, based on this development, you're going to have another YDK being built here, maybe another one up here, and then we look at the ships. So we've got, let's pull up all their fleets. ISC, numbered fleets. So we've got 4th fleet and 2nd fleet. So we'll put 4th fleet right here. We'll put 2nd fleet right here. So 4th and 2nd, and then the 1st ISC fleet. Okay, so ISC 1st fleet. So these are the 3 fleets that are right up here at the top. And then we've got 5th. Of course, I'm in the way here. We've got 5th fleet plus frigate, destroyer, and a tug. Tug obviously upgrading that YBS to a YDK. So let's go to ISC 5th fleet. So 5th fleet is the one on the far side here. So we've got 4th, 5th. Oh, and there's 6 down here too. Let's pull up 6th fleet so we can get a full spectrum of what's going on. There is nothing in 6th fleet, so it's all smoke and mirrors. Lovely. So what do we got? We've got in this neck of the woods, and I guess we'll just expand this ever so slightly so we can see what's going on here. So we can see we've got a YDN, and their YDN is big and heavy for the Y era. It is a 7 attack, 9 defense ship. It is arguably the best dreadnought in the Y era for any of the factions. We've got a command cruiser. We've got 4 cruisers, heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, total of 6 destroyers and 6 frigates. We have another command cruiser, 2 heavy cruisers. So that brings us to 2 CCs and a total of 6 CAs. Another 2 light cruisers, destroyer and frigate. Another command cruiser. So 3 command cruisers, a total of, what was that, 6? Now we're up to 9 heavy cruisers. Then the 3 light cruisers, which brings our total up to 7. Another destroyer and another frigate and a couple prime teams involved. That's quite a fleet for the ISC, especially on the mini-map. Quite a heavy contingent. And what are they going to be facing? Let's close this out real quick. And then, of course, the backup fleet, which is 5th, is another 3 command cruisers, 6 heavy cruisers, 5 light cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 7 frigates. What are they facing? On the homeworld, there is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frigates, 1, 2, 3 destroyers, 1, 2, 3 heavy cruisers, or cruisers for them, 1 command cruiser, and a vulture. Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the ISC are preparing for an all-out assault on the Romulans. And when they choose to pull that trigger, I expect it will be a very quick execution. We'll have to see how this evolves going forward, but very much so, this is going to be a quick and deliberate decapitating when it occurs. Now, remember what I said about this little border right here? If we go back to the big map and we go visit the Paravians, remember this? Oh, I'm going to move my head so it's a little bit easier to see. Remember this? That, I believe, is that little pocket that the ISC are looking at. So if we look at the ISC and the Paravians are right there, and we go back to the big map and we zoom out, we can guesstimate, I'll move my head again, we can guesstimate that the ISC are in this pocket right here. And remember, they're bordering on the bottom of the map. So right where the New World's logo is like the bottom of the map, they're right there. And they're encountering the Romulans in this little corner right here. So the Paravians and the ISC are going to have some kind of interaction. How are they going to get along? Are they going to be nice? Are they going to be mean to each other? Only time will tell. So, and of course, let's not forget, as we zoom into, we were talking about the Kzinti before. If we zoom in a little bit, remember we were talking about those 2 pulsars? Look at this pulsar here, this pulsar here, and this jagged line of border. Remember that? Doesn't that look similar? So we can tell by guesstimation that the Kzinti are here. The ISC are here, which means the Carnivon are here. We haven't seen the Carnivon map in a couple turns. We'll see what that happens as hopefully he catches up. But that's how the map is going to potentially look. So what is that going to do if the Kzinti are here? Are they going to put pressure on the Tholians or the Romulans? What are the ISC going to do? Are they going to interact? Obviously, I'm guessing they're going to take out the Romulans. Are they going to interact with the Paravians? And then, of course, the Carnivon. When the Carnivons show up, how are they going to interact with everybody? They look like they might be pretty close to the Remans. What about the Lyrans? What about the Gorn? Where do they fit in here? And then, of course, the Federation. So there's all sorts of interesting dynamics still yet to come that we can discuss as we go forward in Star Trek New Worlds. All right, so a very interesting series of events as we're unfolding. 1, the Lyrans had a massive conflict with the Tholians. Incredible tussle back and forth, and incredibly costly from a military perspective. 50 ship equivalents, according to the Lyran player, that the Lyrans lost. And what did they gain? They destroyed a couple of key strategic assets, but no territorial gain for that price. On the Reman and Hydran front, as we go across the top, the Remans and the Remans, it seemed, were preparing for an all-out assault on the Hydrans, and yet their very actions seemingly were the root of their own doom, as the Tholians came roaring in and annihilated both Romulan and Reman assets in the area. What are they going to do? How are they going to respond? How is this going to unfold? Who knows? Will the Tholians be able to make a full run and take out the Romulans completely? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. What about the Gorn? Well, the Gorn has regularly and repeatedly talked about taking out the Hydrans. We'll see how that goes. But they are currently building up and stacking up a movement into Romulan space. The Paravians are coming north, the Gorns are going south. How is that going to turn out? There are very clear conflicts between the two. Are they going to eventually learn how to play nice? Are they going to piss each other off? Are they going to fight each other? Or are they going to get the Romulans to go on one side or the other, and help them take out the other? I don't know. It'll be very interesting. Based on the way things are going, the Paravians definitely seem to have a leg up, maybe a wing up, with regards to the speed at which they're building their infrastructure into Romulan space. Will the Gorn be able to catch up? Time will tell. Then, of course, we've got the ISC, the Kzinti, and maybe the Carnarvon in the wings. The ISC ready to strike on the Romulans. How will that unfold in the next couple turns? I'm going to guess 2 to 4 turns, and then the ISC are going to attack. Once that last YBS is built and then upgraded to a YDK, that will be my call as to when the ISC drop the hammer. We'll see. Then there's the Kzinti. How long until they're going to join the big map? Because when they do, they're going to be quite interestingly positioned to be able to engage the Romulans, if they so choose, or maybe move to help support the Federation and the Klingons against the Tholians. The Federation and the Klingons. Federation are building these massive fleets. What was that, like 28 frigates? And they are getting ready to assault key Tholian locations. They are very clearly building up these massive fleets to be able to perform vehement strikes against Tholians and Tholian positions, perhaps in defense of the Romulans, if anything, just to be able to push them back. And then, like I say, we round back up to the Lyrans. The Lyrans are pushing south to try and protect that little enclave of Romulan territory. How successful will they be? Will they lose that struggle to the Tholian onslaught and their superior technology? And will the Tholians stop there, or will they continue to push into Lyran territory at the expense of the Lyran economy and military? And of course, one last thing to consider. When all this goes down, and when you're in these fights, you bring on and you earn yourself war turns. War turns accumulate over time and then eventually lead to war fatigue. If you build up war fatigue, that's going to impact you from an economic perspective and a military perspective once it gets out of control. How are the players going to manage their war fatigue? How are they going to be able to manage their economies? How are they going to manage their expansion in the face of such a hostile environment? Only time will tell. And if you want to find out, then be like David. Hit David316, hit that subscribe button. I noticed so many of you have joined us here today. Hit that subscribe button. Join us along. Of course, you can join our Coffee and Discord tier and join us on Discord as we play out these battles, as we chit-chat about the rules, as we explore what is going on day or turn after turn after turn. Very, very interesting. Okay, last sort of foray into the chat here as I pop it out and see what it is that you all are saying. Okay, so since the last coffee, the Tholian fight last night, rocks and fur were flying, Bill says. As Petty was mentioning, I didn't show the 3rd and 4th anti-Hydran fleets. Yeah. Lord Lawless, Kzinti cats, but the wrong kind. Kzinti have ships on 2 Tholian resources. Will there be a fight? It'll be interesting to see. Bill says, probably Eugene, the most awesome spoken by an ISC player in another game. I'm not sure what that means. Lord Lawless, good stream. Got to run to go build more ships. Absolutely. George Forknell is in the house. Thumbs up, everybody. That's right. Hit that like button. Tickle the YouTube algorithm the right way. Julian, thanks for fielding the newbie questions. Anytime. Don't be shy, Julian. And Bill saying, what's down, Charlie Brown? Okay, well, everybody, that was a great show today. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one as this goes on. How do you prefer, or how do you like this particular campaign, Splintered Will, versus what's going on in New Horizons, totally different games, totally different scale and scope, different sort of issues that are coming up, and certainly different stages of the game. How are you liking the interplay between the two? And what are you most interested in each particular or any specific campaign? Let us know in the comments if you're catching this on the replay. And of course, check out that report in the comments or the community tab when it comes to what is going on with the GSE. All that said, I am looking forward to chatting with you all on the Discord channel, heading over there right now, and I will see you next week. Ciao for now.